Hello friend, welcome back to Toyota Maintenance YouTube channel. I have here brand new customer, brand new vehicle. It's 2006 Toyota Corolla LE with approximately 144,000 miles. I'm starting with them with a detailed inspection, and I just realized this is a typical example of these Corollas with this roughly mileage which I just stated. Anytime I get new customer with this vehicle, similar year, it's basically you almost can bet there are very similar problems on it. So let me show you that pattern or the items which keeps repeating all the time. This vehicle was somehow maintained. Apparently it has a bunch of flashes. Here is the cover. What's the engine? Well, it's a 1ZZFE. And you open the hood and you see this. Well, as I promised the owner, I will not listen to the fact he told me that some flashes were done. I will just ignore that and go and inspect everything because they are paying me for it. So I start on the left here. Does that look to you like the power steering flash was done? No, it wasn't. Look at that amount of that black residue on the dipstick. That should be nicely clear all the way down. That's definitely heavy contamination, and that needs to be dealt with. I'm not sure what fluids were flushed, because the automatic transmission, when I pulled the dipstick, the fluid is absolutely dark, like your darkest hour. Black residue when I swept my fingers on the dipstick, really black residue on my fingers. So definitely not. On contrary, when I use the light through this brake fluid reservoir, that seems to be actually clean and very good condition. Most of the time, the valve cover is not leaking. It's not leaking around here on the top, not on the back. It's also not leaking in the coils, in those spark plug tubes. As you see, these coils seems to be aftermarket in my opinion. I don't think it's Toyota. Spark plug inside the number one I pulled was correct and was looking recent, so that was good. Do you think you don't see any oil leak up here, that the back of the engine will be clean? No. You know that there is the timing chain tensioner oil leak always present on the back of engine in this area. We will see it a little bit later when I will lift the vehicle. Very often this coolant expansion tank is not on the top level. This one is actually absolutely empty and dry. You know, never open when hot. It even says right here, but it's not hot. So I open the radiator. I don't see any coolant either. So there is something happening here. Now what you don't see very often, that somebody barely put that radiator hose on that radiator end. Do you see that gap? That hose is supposed to go all the way and then you put the clamp. I don't know what the heck. These people were in so much hurry. They didn't put it all the way, and on the other side where it enters engine, there is actually coolant crystals and seepage. So, of course, I went a little bit backwards right now. I started here on the left. So first I was looking on serpentine belt, but also on the water pump or engine cooling pump. I'm using this mirror. I will tap on the pulley. This is the water pump pulley, and sure enough, my friend, we are missing coolant here. I didn't see it underneath the engine. Well, look on the side of water pump. I will put that mirror there. We will turn it correctly. Look at there. Do you see that coolant? Do you see that buildup of the crystals from Toyota super long life coolant? So there is definitely on the edge. It's not the weep hole which is around the shaft, but for some reason there is a very slow seepage or buildup of the coolant on the side of the water pump. So that needs to be dealt with too. But it's something what you need to check if you buy used one. It's not typical. I'm not saying I see that happening most of the time. That will be wrong information. Let's go back to those typical ones. And of course, as you know from this channel, I always check throttle body. So I remove this intake pipe. Of course, the throttle body valve, butterfly valve, it's completely nasty and dirty. Of course, I clean here the MAF, popped it out. Of course, also MAF sensor, it's completely dirty. Despite the fact here in the engine filter housing is brand new engine air filter. Corolla is finally nicely in the air. As I said, I didn't see any catastrophic coolant leaking anywhere. So it's interesting why it is low when that seepage around the water pump is very minimal. But let's go back to that timing chain cover, oil leak. This is basically what you see always. It's visible from above. I'm on purpose showing it to you from underneath, but it's visible from above too if you really look with a mirror behind the engine. So this oil, it's all over this side, and it's not a valve cover. It's that O-ring or the seal or the flat seal, because Toyota changed the design of it. In some years it was O-ring, and in some years it's a flat gasket basically. So that's leaking from up there, and that needs to be dealt with. The front brakes and CV axles, right? You see this oil? That's not from CV axle or anything. That's still that timing chain tensioner leaking. Everything's fine here, typical. No damages. The exhaust, it's cool. The rear struts, I'm not sure if I ever replaced one. They never leak, so they are good. There's no problems with those. Very typical what I see when you have this base model with the drums. Let me grab the gauge. This is that brake gauge which helps to explain customers the thickness, and if you look, always the rear brake shoe will be 3 to 4 millimeters, yet the front one, it's barely 2 millimeters. Red means to replace, obviously. So again, very, very typical. Nobody will remove this drum. I had to use those separator bolts. It was rusted to this up. It didn't want to go. When you see that, you almost can bet that this wasn't maintained for a long time, and it will be needing service in future too. Let's mention as a last item I will show you today the front struts. They also normally don't leak, but this rubber boot which you see there hanging, it falls apart on those by that age. So in the good, if you are lucky, it will actually stay down here. It will just sit down here like that, and you are good. But let's go and look on the other side. That's also, I keep seeing it all over. Look at it. it's chewed inside. Instead of just sitting down here, it actually got stuck up there, and you just hope that it's not affecting the function of that strut. So I hope you enjoyed this little tour of this 2006 Corolla, and maybe it will help you to have a list of things to check if you are going to shop for used Corolla in the future. Thank you for watching, and be subscribed. I have way more coming your way soon. See you later, my friend.